So I'll try this again. Now that you can hear me, who here has ever heard of Capital One's slogan, "What's in your wallet?" All right. Well, for a consumer brand like Capital One, of course, branding and recognition is important because the first step to being trusted is being known. And what I want to talk about today is why it's important to get our business analyst community more well-socialized and more in the know about concepts that are popular and really common in the data science world, like reproducible workflows and better, more reproducible analysis. So we can think of reproducibility as sort of being a brand, which in and of itself has really exploded in the data science world in recent years. That may seem silly because clearly at the highest level, this isn't really a new concept or a new idea. But really, tying back to the replicability crisis in a lot of the social science disciplines in the past decades, this has really brought reproducibility, both tools and techniques, to being really a hot topic. So much so that it even has come into like the public media in mainstream publications like The Atlantic, The Economist, and The New York Times. And a lot of organizations have gone out of their way to embrace this and really evangelize this to a lot of new audiences. One of my favorite examples, and something that was very formative and helpful in my team's thinking at Capital One, was both the data carpentry and software carpentry sister organizations. They recognized the need that academic researchers in many different disciplines now that weren't traditionally data disciplines, for example, maybe ecology, which actually we heard a lot about very data-driven type work in biology and ecology with our previous presenters. But they recognize that not all of these researchers necessarily grew up with training in really data science and software development type fields. So they've developed many different sort of boot camps specific to different industries and use cases and trained over 22,000 researchers in these reproducible techniques with their force of 1,000 volunteer instructors. And they've also written a very paper that was very informative and helpful for my team and our project at Capital One, Good Enough Practices in Scientific Computing, talking about how to distill a lot of the concepts of reproducibility down into those that are most useful for your everyday data practitioner. Of course, while the scientific community is really worried and interested in using reproducibility to get at better scientific transparency, industries really embrace this for its massive gains in just the quality and efficiency and the rapid pace of analysis and iteration. One of my favorite examples in this space is Airbnb, which created an internal Airbnb package. This package helps their data scientists to better communicate and collaborate with each other and share their work through their now open source knowledge repository, which sits on top of GitHub to make past projects they've done more searchable and help the code and peer review process, and share and create more standardized styles and frameworks for doing their work. So with all of this buzz around reproducibility, it may seem strange that business analyst communities in general haven't tended to adopt these technologies that are really commonplace and yet ever developing and emerging in the data science world. But I think there are a few key reasons why that's the case. In general, business analysts we think of as delivering value to their organization more through driving decision-making, finding specific pockets of opportunity to exploit, and implementing those decisions in the market. This leads them to think more in terms of concrete, specific, one-off problems. If they're asked to analyze, should we perhaps market to a new segment of customers, they're more going to think about what makes this problem unique and special and different from the rest. This is a little different from the general scientific lens of analysis, where we tend to think about in programming and mathematics and science in general, the idea of abstraction and thinking at things at more the broader level. This predisposes business analyst work to skew towards the much lesser end of reproducibility, because when we're communicating with our stakeholders, we're not really talking so much about the methods we use to draw our conclusions, so much as the specific action we recommend implementing in the real world. Now, unfortunately, this sort of dynamic plays out in the different tools that we tend to use to do our analysis. Unfortunately, in this day and age, business analysts are still very often using